Wow. It appears we have internet connection today and no Daleks are trying to take over the Highbury squad. But you better be prepared for this week's Kevin Says Truth Serum episode. This is the Lockdown Series, episode 18. Let's go, Gunners. Some of you may be wondering why I'm dressed like something out of a 1950s Cuban restaurant theme. But Super Kev knows style when he sees it. Welcome to the show, bro.
I love it. Nice to see you looking so sharp. Nice one, Sophie.
Yeah, well, I have a bit of a Hollywood appointment later, so we'll keep it at that. But for now, let's keep it to what this episode is about. Kevin Says weekly segment returns, and you really want to dig deep and start talking about some truth serum. So here we go, Gunners. Kevin Says the truth about Arsenal.
Hi everyone, this is Kev Says 7. I know things have been all over the place after the last result against Wolves. Are we really surprised of what we're seeing? I know, yes, of course we want it to change. Of course we do. And this one is the truth about Arsenal. Arsenal and the truth. We're going to do this is the recording. I'm not going to go too deep into this because I want to get your questions and really do things on the day. I think that's really important that you guys have your say. I could say my opinion. I hear your opinion. We might not agree, and probably we won't agree at times. Yet the crazy thing is, for the last how many years, these players have been up and down and up and down and up and down. And finally, some of them got a bit of success at the end of last season. Little bit of success in the FA Cup, and then, get into the game versus Liverpool, the Charity Shield, and they win that. All of a sudden, do they think they're players? Is there we just need to turn up and not put the work in? Because you know what? I see opposition teams putting the work in. I see the opposition teams putting the work in. And I don't see any response from Arsenal. So we've got to talk the truth. Let's talk the absolute truth. The same inept performances we have seen season after season after season. So whether you have an experienced manager like Emery, we saw it under Wenger, we saw it under Emery, and now we're seeing it under Arteta. Arteta kind of started different because he made a little difference. They won. And then going into this season, we thought, right, at least the boys are improving. No, they've reverted right back to type. For me, we've got to look at and address quite a few things. Are the players good enough? No, let's look. First question, is Arteta good enough? Are the players good enough? Is the mentality of the team good enough? And last but not least, what needs to change to get the mentality right? Because as proven, as we see, changing managers necessarily is not the case, because they've messed up under Wenger, they've messed up under Emery, they've done nothing with Freddie, and that was only a small little snapshot, and they kind of had a resurgence under Arteta, but they're reverting back to type. Is it fair on Arteta that he's having to work with these guys and he's not been able to have a proper transfer window. He's not really been backed. Let's get it all out in the open, Gooners. Let's get it all out in the open. This is Arsenal, the Truth series. Kev says this is the Arsenal and the Truth. So let's have it out. Let's talk about it. And let's see where we get. I personally know from my position, I'm not saying everybody, this is what I know. I know the players have to step up because they are not. And people could talk about that, but the manager does this stuff. Stop it. Stop it. Once a player passes that white line, he can't be looking to his mum. Oh, sorry, his manager, his mum on the side, his manager. Oh, help me, help me, help me. No, you've got to go out there and do it. They've proven they know how to do it. They've proven they know how to play better. But they're just not playing better. Is that because they're not good enough? But let's address all of this tomorrow. Okay? Kev says, Arsenal and the Truth. Kev says number 7. Take it easy and let's get it done. All the best, everyone. Take good care.
Wow, Casey, you let the gauntlet out right there, and you're letting everyone have it. We've talked a lot and debated and had tons of conversations on our show about the state of the union in terms of where we are as a club. We're both dressed in black today, so we're ready for battle, I think. Like Will Smith style, Big Willie style, I think, right here.
Yeah. And do you know what, Sophie? I've got to say, the fan base has been fantastic. And we talk about toxicity and all that kind of thing, but the fan base, I think a lot of the fan base has been fine. They've got questions just like you've got questions, Sophie. Mm-hmm. And what a great platform for us to actually connect and actually speak about things, because very rarely fans ever get the opportunity to speak about it like this. So it's great what you've put together, and let's have it out.
Well, let me just add to that the fans don't get the opportunity to actually have a legend in the house that they can ask these questions directly to, someone who's been in the dressing room, who understands the trials and tribulations of football life. You've been at the very tippy top of the mountain. You've also had to survive relegation, be a captain on the day, and lead a group of men to believe that they can save their team and fans and a community from losing multi millions of dollars by having to play in the championship, and you achieved and did that. So with that said, this is our fan show, so I'm going to fire it off because we've been inundated with comments on YouTube and in chat. So I'm going to start with a really simple one here from Nick. The players aren't good enough. The board and owner haven't backed Arteta. However, the standard of football is going downhill, and I question Arteta's man management and tactics. Now, you know what he means by this, KC, because I've asked you this question about the fight with Ceballos Luis, Willian going to Dubai, Pepe coming out and making his comments, Pepe being petulant, getting sent off. What's your answer to Nick about Arteta's, forget tactics and all that, man management? What do you see?
Well, this is what I see. Was there any question of Mikel Arteta's man management last season? I don't think there was. Even though we went through some very difficult times, Sophie, there was no question of the man management. There was no question, and I'm sure we got people in there would be questioning his backroom staff. There was no question of them last season. There was no question of them when we underdogs that we were. Why were we underdogs against Manchester City? Why were we underdogs against Chelsea in the final? Why were we even, everybody was a bit 50-50 going to Sheffield United in the FA Cup as well? Why? Because they know we ain't that club anymore. Let's talk the truth. So there was no question of his man management. Whenever things start to go bad, Sophie, people start to pick up on stuff that probably happened last season. There was no problem, but now all of a sudden it's a problem. Mm-hmm. There is no problem with Arteta and his man management skills. Nobody questioned him on Guendouzi last season when he kicked him out. Nobody questioned him on Ozil when the team went on and won the FA Cup. So his man management is right. There has to be some discipline in that dressing room, because that's why Emery lost his job, Sophie. Emery lost his job because he didn't have discipline inside that dressing room.
Well, he tried to get it by teaching Ozil a lesson that he couldn't do what he did under Wenger's watch, and that was unacceptable anymore. And I hear what you're saying, Super Kev. And also, I think the reason why some of these man management issues are coming up is not based on what we saw last year, but based on what we're seeing this year, with maybe a little favoritism. If you're going to ostracize Guendouzi and Ozil, why don't you bench Willian for going to Dubai? Those kind of small little niggly things that have crept in, things being leaked from the training ground, Pepe speaking out when he's on international duty. So I think that's where some of these guys are coming from.
Which yeah, but that's not Arteta's man management. Pepe speaking out. That's a player talking. That's not Arteta's man management, Sophie. Do you understand what I mean? So you could lump everything on Arteta's plate. Of course you can. But a player speaking, and he wasn't disrespectful. He was very respectful, said he wants to play more. He knows he needs to be trusted, etc. So how is that a knock on his man management? I just don't get that one.
Okay, so let's weave into this one from Doomslayer 510, because it's all encompassing. We see a lot of the time, Andre Villas-Boas, for example, when he took over from Chelsea, did so well. He was a protege of Mourinho, the great hope of him. It just was a bit too big. Certain managers you see come into clubs, even some a well-respected manager like Roy Hodgson going into Liverpool, was a little bit too much for him. You could argue. Is this a bit too much for Arteta?
I don't think so. Do you know how I know it's not too big for Mikel Arteta, Sophie? And I know I'm going to keep going back to it, but with the same group of players, he improved them last season to a point where we hadn't beaten Man City in how many games?
Mm-hmm.
We beat them. And we beat them convincingly in a huge game. Played Chelsea. After going a goal down, we beat Chelsea in the final.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, these players were perennial, inconsistent players. All of a sudden, they were performing against the big teams. And we loved it. Let's be honest, we loved it because we were the underdog. We won a trophy. Brilliant. But here's the problem. The problem is, all of a sudden success comes and players level, we think, is going up. But what also goes up is the expectation level, Sophie. This is why everybody is going crazy, because we're expecting this team to be a lot better than they are. And Sophie, the truth of the matter is, one, I've said it before, they're not playing well enough. But two, does it actually surprise us that this team are failing? When they failed with Wenger, they failed with Emery, they failed with Freddie, and now they're failing after a little bit of success with Arteta. Does it surprise us?
Okay, so let's continue the conversation, because a lot of the comments coming in right now in our chat, and I haven't even gotten to YouTube yet. We got Kevin for an hour, so we're going to try and make this quick fire and squeeze all these in, you guys, because you've got some. So Mikel says he's dropped Ozil for footballing reasons. Nick Core 74, thank you for the follow up. Yeah, other players like Xhaka aren't performing but still starting games, and I had to give him the opportunity to follow this up with you. Why aren't the others being given a chance? This is what
others?
Well, I mean, if
name the others.
Okay, so he dropped
Ozil's dead. Ozil's finished.
Well, and he sent Guendouzi off. Saliba is somehow ostracized. Why is that happening?
Yeah, that's one thing. There's two players.
You have Xhaka and Ceballos who've been terrible in midfield. So he's squeezed in Willock. I guess it's when some of the fans are talking about giving other players a chance. I think it's about not choosing the same players over and over.
But what we got to ask, I've got to ask, when people say others, it's too broad. What others. It's important if they could
Smith
put in.
Rowe. Here we go. He's followed it up with Smith Rowe.
Yeah, Smith Rowe. But Smith Rowe has never been a starter. He doesn't trust Smith Rowe. Smith
Reece.
Rowe's been injured. He's played Reece in a few games, but has Reece really done it when he's played? No, he hasn't.
Okay, so
He hasn't done it.
let me ask you this then, because you know, he's played those players. They haven't performed week in, week out, and there are players that are performing in Europa League, and we're never going to know if they're good in the Premier League until we try them. And we've seen other managers try playing younger players. We talked about Fofana, by the way, who was playing with Saliba and Saint Etienne, and we talked about him not being the star in Saint Etienne, and Saliba was, and somehow there's an injury at Leicester, and he starts playing, and boom, you know, 4 or 5 games, and he's shining. So I think that the question mark is, why is there this treatment of certain players? Bellerin, for example, why can't Maitland-Niles get a shot? He's been poor. Pepe over Willian.
Sophie, you're asking me something I can't answer. I don't know why Ainsley Maitland-Niles is not getting game time. I don't know why Saliba. How Mustafi comes back from injury.
Oh, why offer him a new contract though? Why offer someone like?
Did he? No, but did he? Not that I know of.
Well,
again, it's all speculation. Nobody knows whether he did or didn't. Nobody knows. But that's the speculation that goes on around the Arsenal character of the fan base. Yeah, he offered him a new contract. We don't know whether he did.
Okay, how about this one from Egyptian Guna podcast? It's not so much about the players he's excluding as much as it is about who he's putting faith in, Kev. Insisting on Willian naming Xhaka as a cornerstone of his midfield, giving new contracts to Luiz. That's kind of like what I was just saying. Also, you know, Cedric, playing Cedric in certain games over even Niles now. You know, those are some question marks that fans have against Arteta, not because they don't think he's the right guy, but there's just some inconsistency in what he's been doing lately.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When they don't win and when things ain't going right, we're going to question everything. We question everything. Right? Now, at the end of the day, if the team were winning, nobody would question anything. But because we're going through a difficult patch, everything gets questioned. Saliba, I understand. 100% question. Maitland-Niles, I get it. Question. But Granit Xhaka, I'm not the biggest fan of Granit Xhaka. But Granit Xhaka and Ceballos were the two who got us through in the FA Cup, etc. last season. So can they perform better than they are? Yes, they can, and that's what he's banking on, Sophie.
Okay,
that's what the manager wants.
Okay, let's move on. From Alex McCarthy, good one. With the current weak-minded mentality of players we have, they breed that negative attitude and mindset onto any new player we bring in. Willian Pepe, for example. I'm seriously worried. I think this is a phenomenal point from Alex. Super Kev.
Great point.
Right? We talk a lot about walking into a culture, right? Parties come from a ruthless culture, a winning culture at Atletico, a competitive culture, I say winning culture loosely at Atletico Madrid, but playing with for a manager like Simeone. You have Gabriel, he's come from Liga, but he's a baller. He was sought by all top clubs in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about Tierney, who's regressed in the last 2 or 3 games, but has been one of our favorite players and has shown leadership skills. Aubameyang, I think, now has been there too long to kind of look at him. Alex makes a great point. What are your thoughts on that?
Alex, absolutely great point. Now, Sophie, me and you have discussed this and the comment 2 years ago that Bellerin made. Arsene Wenger always said the culture in the dressing room is fantastic. He's always come out with that and said that. Under Emery, at the beginning it was fine and then it went pear-shaped. Under Freddie, it wasn't so great either. But we saw a little change when Arteta first took over. The key to all of this, Sophie, is the club are not the same club that we are used to. Week in, week out. The players do not have the culture. They do not have the mindset. They do not have the toughness. Even when they don't play well, Sophie, they can't grind results out. We get beat. That tells you everything about them. We are weak mentally. And the quicker Mikel Arteta can get the players in to make this team and club the mirror image of him and what he wants, the better. January can't come quick enough.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. And to follow up, Alex says the players are the main reason. They're uncoachable and unmanageable. The same players ended up weak with Wenger and Emery, and yet we're expecting them to be better under Arteta. I think that's true. Now, there's been some harsh criticism on our, we love our YouTube followers and how they get stuck into stuff. So I'm going to have to read some of these out to you. And I'm going to read out even some of the, you get all the legend comments all the time. I'm going to read out a couple harsh ones that I know that you're ready to answer.
Read it out. Yeah.
Okay. So this is Stevie Best Ferreira, who commented on our post-game Wolves show. I've lost respect for Kevin now. Big up Sophie for the questions. Why does Kevin keep making excuses?
Steve, I love that, Steve. I love that. I love it.
I know you want to get your...
Yeah, let me... right. So what is that it? I keep making excuses. Was that the end of...
That's his comment, yes.
Okay, right. Remember, Steve, I look at it from a different angle than you do. I'm lucky enough and blessed enough to have been in the dressing room. So I don't look at it just through the eyes of a fan. I look at it from the inside looking out as well. So I've got to speak about my experience. As far as I'm concerned, let's look at facts. The facts of the matter is, Steve, for the last 10 years, you and I could see Arsenal needed centre-back, centre midfield. The mentality of the team were weak. We used to go away from home and the game was over in the first half. Is that truth or is that lies? That's facts. So, therefore, Sophie, after Wenger came in Emery, and after Emery came in Freddie, and then Freddie came in Arteta. Something has to change because for 10 years, we saw no difference. For 10 years plus. Arteta comes in, and for his first transfer window, he buys that centre-back and he buys a centre midfielder that we needed 10 years ago. How come Wenger never done that? How come Emery never done that? Can't call Freddie in it because Freddie only had 8 games, I think. But Arteta done it in only his first window. He knows what he needs, but he has to work with these players. Unfortunately, the mentality and the toughness in these players is not Arsenal. They are not Arsenal tough. There, I said it. That's the fact. And I am making no excuses. Arteta must be questioned about Saliba, Maitland-Niles. You could talk about systems all you like. It is down to the players because we've seen the players change system and win games against the big teams. So I don't want to hear about no excuses because the players have done it.
Don't you think it was interesting? And I don't know if you guys read it, but there was an interview with Unai Emery, and one of the comments he made that I think is very poignant, Casey, and something that we have firmly believed for a very long time is that these players get up for certain games and some they don't. And Emery's comment was, where I come from, where I manage and where we play, you have that same attitude for every single game. So there was an enablement, and there was another comment from someone, I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but they said, if you don't think Arsene Wenger is somewhat responsible for the current culture of the club, then you're really deluded, because he infused this, when you're there for a long time, you get loose as a manager, you go invincible, you win doubles, you win how many FA Cups, you're really successful. You kind of bring it back with more FA Cups, but those players were enabled. My cousin George and I were having this conversation the other day, and we were like, look at them. They think that they're so entitled just putting the Arsenal shirt on, but they don't even know what it means to represent the badge. And so this cancer, if you like, has spread. And right now it might be stage 4, right? Because Arteta's come out. And I want to throw this one at you before we get back to the listener stuff, is he said, and Chris Wheatley wrote about this in Football London, and I'd like to read it to you. We want to move to a 4-3-3, but for that, you need a lot of specificity in every position. But now in 5 or 6 positions, we don't have it. This is him calling out the players without throwing them all under the bus, but he really kind of has, in a sense, said, I've tried what I can, and now I need what I need in order to make this work. KC.
Look, 100%. Again, he's been dealt with the players, the cards of the players right now. So he works with them, Sophie. Last season, he got some change out of them, Sophie. He got them to an FA Cup final and got them to win it, etc. And I'm not saying the FA Cup is the biggest trophy in the world. It's a good trophy, but it's not the biggest trophy. But what that does for Arteta is tells him, okay, I could trust these players a little bit. Okay? I could trust them a little bit because in the big games, when it mattered, they came up trumps. And they've never done that. And they never done that under Emery. Did they? They never done it.
Mm-hmm.
They done it. So Arteta got a little tune out of some of the players. Some of the players improved a bit. So we think, great. Can they kick on now? There's a new manager. Can they kick on? But the bottom line of it is, Sophie, they have reverted back to type. And actually, they've got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And because they've got worse, Mikel Arteta cannot put his finger on, I prepare them. I do the training like we normally do when they were doing well. So why are they not producing? And they're not producing because their mentality isn't right. So now, this is why I say January cannot come quick enough, because I think Mikel Arteta was thinking he's got 4 or 5 transfer windows. Now, he's got 2 more. Sophie, he's only got 2 more, which is January and possibly in the summer.
Okay.
But that's why we need the clock, the recruitment clock has sped up now. They've got to do business in January.
Okay, here's one for you from our YouTube channel from Lee Crofts. We're 4 plays short, and he wants to know this, and he's throwing out names: James Ward-Prowse, Wilfred Zaha, Ivan Toney, Danny Ings. He thinks they're exactly what we need. Players who perform consistently in England in the Premier League. Toney and Ings know where the back of the net is. KC, I think I was listening to Harry the other day, and he was talking about how, you know, even we look at players at Wolves and Leicester and Southampton, and we're admiring maybe having some of those players, which you would never, ever have heard Arsenal fans say 10 years ago. What do you think about what Lee Croft said, and how much merit is there in really look at Højbjerg at Spurs, was at Southampton, experienced Premier League player. He's probably one of Tottenham's best signings so far this season.
Yeah, Sophie, great question by Lee Crofts. Great point. And this is what I will say, Sophie. The Arsenal fan base have an arrogance, have an absolute arrogance, thinking, questioning, oh, this one ain't good and that one ain't good, and he's playing for Southampton and he's playing for there. Look what Liverpool have done. Sadio Mane and all that from Southampton. They've gone out and bought Premier League ready players. Yeah, that's what they've gone and done. So it's not about, oh, they're not good enough. They are good enough, but you need players with the right attitude. This is where the recruitment has gone wrong for the last 10 years.
Name blocked right here. Look at this. We panic buy every season since Fabregas joined the first team and end up overspending on substandard players. Hitting your note right now, Casey, talking about recruitment, which has been a terrible, terrible strategy.
Sophie, you're being kind saying terrible. It has been atrocious. It's
Rancid.
been, yeah. Sophie, in the last 10 years, if we recruited properly, if Mikel Arteta wanted to change players in the summer, players should be flying out the door. We couldn't get rid of anyone. That tells you everything. It's either teams wanted them on the cheap, or the player even turned around and said, nah, not for me. That is where we're at. And whether we like it or not, this is why we're talking about the truth, Sophie. The truth of the matter is Arsenal's recruitment has been awful. Arsenal have recruited the wrong players. Arsenal have recruited players who don't have the Arsenal mindset. And once you have players who don't have the mindset, that's why we'll go up and then we come down, and we go up and then we come down. That's why we're yo-yo. And that's why we are in a big problem now.
Okay. Can I just say, if you do get this job, I'd like to be your assistant. Okay. I'll hold the clipboard, by the way.
We won't need no clipboard. You know what we'll need? we need baseball bats, love. I'm telling you.
All right. Here's another one from YouTube. I know you're ready for these. So this is from Trevold59. Kev, it's the worst start for 30 odd years. It's not a rough patch. How'd you explain that one?
It is a rough patch. It's 10 games. It's not even a third of the season gone. And some of them games, do you know what? We actually won. We actually won. We didn't play well, but we actually won some of those games. So you can't call everything a nightmare. We've seen the champions get done battered by Villa. So there have been some crazy results. Our problem is, Sophie, and I'm going to go back and say it again, we are so inconsistent as a football club and as a team. We could play well one week, and then the team who turned up against Aston Villa, for instance, were like strangers. We can't. Sorry, can I just finish this?
Yeah.
We're like strangers, and that comes down to one thing, and that's player mentality.
I agree with the mentality. We're weak sauce. This is why I don't want Bellerin in the team week after week. I love him as a humanitarian. You know, he does amazing things off the pitch. But I'm sorry, his heart, there's certain players that are more. Dele is more about his brand and his social media. Jesse Lingard, more about his brand and his social media. I'm putting Bellerin in that mix a little bit, although Bellerin's a good guy and he got injured and he works really hard. But Maitland-Niles, what does he have to do to get a game? Here's one from Hambo Gumball. I really like this because we're talking generational here, you guys, and I've kept it up on screen for a bit because for us Generation Xers especially, we lived through the Invincibles. There's a lot of Arsenal fans and Man United fans who don't know what it's like to lose, Casey, who don't know what it's like to be part of that culture. He's been lack of due diligence since his mid-20s. He's now in his 40s. This is true, is it not? It's not an over-exaggeration.
Hambo Gumball, you're right. It is not an exaggeration. And Sophie, here's the funny thing. Here's the great thing. Arsenal fans ain't stupid. Arsenal fans are a bit hurt right now. I get that. But again, let's look at the facts, Sophie. After all of those quality Arsene Wenger teams, we papered cracks winning FA Cups. True or lie? Because, Sophie...
Truth, 100% truth,
yeah,
especially after 2015. Yes.
Right. But because, Sophie, when you win trophies and it's Arsene Wenger, the recruitment to try and be the best never happened. It never happened. Ever since we left Highbury, we were sold a dream, Sophie, and they reneged on the deal. They reneged on the deal. They said, we'll be challenging, we'll be making recruitment, we'll be eating at the top table. Arsene Wenger stuck to his task by qualifying for the Champions League. But where were the top players being recruited? They weren't. This is why I say for a decade, we wanted a centre back and a centre midfielder. And we've only just got them in 2020. So what does that tell you about the club? The club haven't wanted to be the best. And that is the problem. Mute. Mute.
Muted. Okay. So what I'm saying is that this is a very important component and part of the truth serum dialogue, because the moving to the Emirates, that was the game changer. And there's a lot of comments that have come through and a lot on YouTube as well, KC, that are talking about losing our soul when we left the Emirates. We lost our identity, the DNA, the culture of the club kind of disappeared. We were promised a lot of things, but it was really a financial thing. Tottenham in some regards have experienced that, but let's give Levy some credit. He recruited quite well in this past summer because he's got Mourinho, who's paying a lot of money for him and his staff, and he's got to go for it, right? Mm-hmm. But the moving to the stadium, KC, how much of that do you think is where the trust broke with the fans in terms of what they were promised, what we've seen? And then I'm going to fire through a few more YouTube comments for you.
Yeah, that's a real good question. For me, the last great Arsenal team broke up just as we were moving to the Emirates. So all the promises of we're going to be in at the top table and we're going to be challenging and all this kind of thing was there. So the fans were waiting. And then we started hearing narrative. We won't be able to do this because of we have to pay the money back for the stadium, etc., etc. So all the narrative started to come. And then when the stadium was paid off, do you know what we heard, Sophie? Oh, we're working on a metric system. So it was excuse after excuse after excuse. We weren't creating a stronger squad. We weren't rebuilding. And let's be honest, the year that Leicester won it, if we'd recruited properly, we would have won the league by a canter.
Totally.
But because of the internal crap that's going on, and they didn't want to be the best, Sophie, and I don't mean spending £300 million. You can go and get players who fight. And this is what we miss. We miss teams. We miss a team that fights. No, it's not all about fancy football.
No.
We miss a team that battles and fights and never gives up. But I've seen against Aston Villa, I've seen against Leicester, I've seen against Leeds, up until the second half where we went down to 10 men and the team showed a bit of spirit. Even the other day when we lost against Wolves, where's the fight? I want to see us fight them. But we don't fight. And this is our heart and soul. We left it at Ivory.
Can I bring something up that I'm sure not a lot of Arsenal fans want to hear, but it's an example of what part of football is. Do you remember in the Amazon Tottenham documentary where Jose Mourinho said to his players, for 90 minutes, you're nice guys, but for 90 minutes, I want you to be cunts.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people took the piss out of him for that, but we, if you're a football fan, you know exactly what he meant. And under Pochettino, you could argue that Tottenham, very polite team, almost took on the model of us, moved to a new stadium, nice team, play sexy football. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to the North London rivals in the sense over the last, 6 or 7, 8 years. And you're right. This is why, okay. Now, I thought he was a punk for what he did against Brighton. But are you really ostracizing Guendouzi for giving Mopé some shit after he can also be a little shit in games? And now you've sent him to Germany to teach him a lesson. Wouldn't it be more beneficial to have a player like him? Because what you're talking about, KC, is what Guendouzi does. He can be a little wanker. He can be one of Mourinho's little cunts, okay? And he basically would be one of those defenders aggressors.
Sophie, what's happened in the background is why Guendouzi is not at the club. When Arteta challenged Guendouzi about his behavior, Guendouzi weren't having it. Now, as a manager, you can't have that, Sophie. And this is where, listen, if you're going to be a winning side, if somebody like Guendouzi cannot adhere to the rules and play his part, accept what the manager's saying, take it on board and move on. He couldn't do that. And if you remember at the start of the season, Mikel Arteta said, everyone's got a clear slate. Guendouzi was training with the team, etc. But Guendouzi wanted to leave. He said he don't want to be there. So what is Arteta supposed to do? All right, go. Because at the end of the day, we were successful without you. Let's be honest. We were successful without him. And listen, Guendouzi isn't the answer. I'm telling you, he's not the answer.
I'm not saying he's the answer
No,
talent-wise.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying myself, Guendouzi isn't the answer in my eyes.
Yeah. I understand. I totally agree with you, though. One of my biggest issues, and when I talk to a lot of Arsenal fans, is sometimes we're just weak sauce. This is the thing, like with players like Bellerin and, you know, Chambers and all these people hanging around that have been there from the Wenger era. They're just weak sauce players. Where's their balls? You know, I have bigger balls than some of these Arsenal players. Okay, here's another one we're going to get stuck to for you. AC, here we go. Another one for you right here. In the interim, Arteta is making the team worse. Respect to Casey, he's a legend, but the process is a bust and the manager is not good enough. What do you say to Mud Buddha on our YouTube channel comment here?
Right. Now, the process is just beginning. Okay? The process is just beginning because for any process, you have to have a goal. What is the goal? The goal, in order to recruit Gabriel, in order to recruit the players that is recruited, Partey, there's got to be a goal. He wants to be in the Champions League and he wants to win the Premier League. Okay? What does Arsenal need to be there to win these things and challenging? Arsenal need stronger players, a better culture, a stronger will. That's just some of the things that they need. So these are all part of the process. So therefore, all of what's gone on previously has to change because it's proven that what was in place wasn't good enough. So this is what Mikel Arteta has to change. And you know what? He's given these players more than enough rope, and they've hung themselves. As far as I'm concerned, they are not good enough, and they're not strong enough.
Okay, I have to get into this one with you quickly as well. We're listening to Kevin Says the Truth About Arsenal here on the Highbury Squad. It's our lockdown series, episode 18. We're coming out a lockdown series. We have a great finale show for you tomorrow as well, but we will be coming to you regularly because I know that you'll probably miss us. So if you want to make sure that we stay and give you content every day, just hit the like button or tell us in chat. Also, I want you to be thinking about the questions Kevin asked in his Kevin Says segment. And after this next point, we're going to remind you of those. Right, KC, here's another one for you. This is from Adeyemi Adi on YouTube. Not a comparison we're going to like, but it's one that we have to look at, especially with the game coming up this weekend. Look at Harry Kane and Son combinations at Spurs. Many times Kane creates chances for Son to score and Son creates chances for Kane to score. Is it taboo for Aubameyang to create chances for himself by also creating chances for his teammates? Stop defending Aubameyang. He has played through the middle in 3 games and he looks lost. KC.
How am I defending Aubameyang? When you're a striker, you rely on service. Where has the service been? In the games where he's played up front on his own, I could only really remember him getting probably two chances, 2 good ones. That's it. The bottom line of it is this. Arsenal are not playing well. Tottenham, as you mentioned, are playing well. When they don't play well, you watch how many chances they create. They won't create much when you're not playing well. But when you are playing well, everything's great. So this is the only thing I could mention. Aubameyang is a different type of player to Son and is a different type of player to Kane. The comparison, I understand there's a comparison because they're doing one thing, but Arsenal aren't Spurs. And Aubameyang, hold on, Aubameyang has proven that he can score 20 plus goals a season.
Even on the left.
If we create the chances for him, he can get those. So, but we're not playing well enough as a team. And I know it's 10 games gone, but we've got a long way to go. In fact, you know what, Sophie? How many points are we off the top 4?
7 or 8 or 9. I'll tell you exactly.
You tell me.
And I'm sure the chat will tell me before I tell you. But I think we're 50. So here we go. We are in we're in 14th. We have 13 points, and the fourth spot is 18. Here's what I wanted to say to you. Okay, wait, but here's what. Okay.
No, hold on a minute. So all this doom and gloom, Soph, a little run of a couple of wins propels us back up the table. So, but I understand we're not playing well, and it is painful. But it won't always be this way. It's not.
Okay, and I totally get that. And here's why I have a firm belief that anything is possible still this season, because this is a very unpredictable league. We're seeing a lot of injuries to Liverpool. City are on the resurgence. Chelsea finding a new form under new players. Can they last the season with a young manager like Frank Lampard too? You've got Jose Mourinho trying to prove a point and make his marker maybe one last time in the league. And then you have the Leicesters of the world and the Wolves and the Evertons who you can't really trust long term. But then you've got Manchester United. And listen, I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come under fire, and some of the greatest memes in football I've seen over the last year are with Ole at the wheel. Okay. But what did he do last season? They're in exactly the same position as us. I don't know if we have the same talent as they do overall, but they were in exactly the same position as us. And they went on a run, somehow found a way, grinded it out, and he got them not only into the top 4, but they finished 3rd and they qualified for the Champions League. Now, as much as I want to question Arteta and I want to push and prod and I want to pick at him because he is the Arsenal manager, and in the Premier League, he needs to pick up our form. Super
100%.
Kev,
Yeah.
right? Super Kev, what will you say to that? You know, to the fact that you asked me what's the difference in the points, and the difference in the points even between us and first is 8. And that game is a North London derby game that who knows what's going to happen with over the weekend.
Sophie, the panic is just because we're not playing well and we're not looking the part, because the expectation level has gone up. But remember, this is the Arsenal truth. Arsenal are 4 points off of 4th. It's not a lot of points. It is not. So there has to be some understanding of, we are not playing well, but you know what? A lot of the others aren't playing well either. And we've seen some weird score lines. Don't forget, before we played Leicester got battered in 2 games. Before we played Villa got battered in 2 games. So it does happen. And we are playing our part in shooting ourselves in the foot, left, right, and center, because our mentality is weak. Because if our mentality was better, Sophie, let me just tell you this. Of all the games we lost, we would have won 2 of them. And if we win 2 of those games, where are we?
We're up there.
No, we're in the top 4.
Right. But let me ask you this. So here's this before we get to, we got 10 minutes left here with Super Kev. And so Leicester, honestly, they're in the top 4 right now. I can see them I can see what happened to them last season, Casey. There's something that they're missing and they're lacking right now. They may address it in January, but can you trust Leicester to be in the top 4? West Ham are 5th right now. It's a miracle. I'm not being funny, but when you look at Moyes, he had COVID too. He was coaching from his house. They were on the sidelines winning games without their manager. Somehow they're in 5th. Southampton, look what Husenhartel has done with them. Again, close to relegation, brought them back up. Amazing what he's doing with less talent than us. And I think, and this is the question I want you to answer for me, even your old team, Everton, they've lost their way a little bit. You've got Man United, Villa, City are in 11th. Manchester City, they're on 15 points. They are only 2 points ahead of us.
Is it 1 point? Is it?
No, we got 13. They've got 15.
Oh, we got 13. Right. So we're 2 points.
Right.
So we're 4 or 5 points off of 4th. We're 2 points off of Man City. And Man City are 3 points off of.
Okay, so here's where I want to, I think, ask the question of a lot of fans. We get that. We see that. But what they can't see is where we are going to garner points with the way we're playing right now.
No, of course you can't, Sophie.
Right.
Of course we can't, because we can't see further than our face, because everything gets questioned. Arteta isn't good enough. Is the coaching staff good enough? The players, it's not the players. The system's wrong. They're never going to see it. When Arsenal start winning, I guarantee you, all that chat about systems, etc., vanishes because we're winning games. That's the way football is, and that's why this platform that we're doing right now is fantastic, because we get to speak about it, we get to air it, we get to connect with the fan base. But let's be brutally honest, there ain't a lot of points in it.
Okay, so here's the scoop. I think in order for us to achieve these goals, right, that we need to, sorry, there's a massive truck that's just driving past the old house right now. If we need to achieve these goals, Casey, we need a fit Thomas Partey. Okay?
100%.
We can't do it without him. And we've seen what and how we play in midfield and the lack of control and what we've missed for 10 years, right? So he doesn't trust the youth, right? We're going into January. Tell us, how do we keep the momentum? How do we not lose track of fighting back up the table with what we have based on the injuries we have too?
What we can't do is self-implode. We've got to win a game of football. And I'm going to cliche it for you, Sophie. We've got to win the first game. We've got to win a game. And a perfect game to win is the game against that lot up the road. Because you know what that will do? That will give the players a bit of confidence. That will tone down the fan base. And that will get Arteta back on, sort of getting back on track. Because it's really important that he gets some of these players back on track for December, because he has to go into the January window and get some play. If he can get them, he's got to get them in January. He's got to.
I muted myself again. Sorry, you guys. There was some noise background. I got to get these on you. So I liked how Arteta was talking about Martinelli. And, you know, he made a comment about, firstly, I'm going to read a couple to you about, I think it's first time in the PL we put 33 crosses in. I'm telling you that if we do that more consistently, we're going to score more goals. If we put the bodies we had in certain moments in the box, it's maths, it's pure maths, it will happen. Okay. So he's a stat guy too. And one of our really good friends of the show, Billy Bean, and you referenced, you know, the Moneyball thing. I love Billy, and he inspired that whole movement, and he was very close to Wenger, and he did it with certain teams in Holland as well. And I think that Arteta is a little bit of a stat guy too. So real quick though, here's some quick ones about Luiz. I think he'll be fit to play if the scar is healing properly and he's comfortable heading the ball. There shouldn't be any problems. That's about David Luiz. Arteta on whether Partey will face Tottenham. Let's see this week if he can get a session or two, assess him and scan him again to see the extent of the injury and how it has healed. And then this one on Gabby Martinelli. Gabby's pressing brings something different to the team, and we need players like him. I mean, wow, if he could come back and star in this North London derby somehow, he to me would seem like a new signing at this point. Your thought and assessment a little bit on what Arteta has said in his presser on some of these huge points, Casey.
Yeah, look, I think the David Luiz situation obviously is one that they're going to be very tentative over. He has to be comfortable heading the ball, obviously, because he's going to be definitely needed to do that. Thomas Partey, they're going to have to tread very carefully, because what we don't want is him to even try and push and come back and injure it more, like we've seen in the past. We have seen that. And as for Martinelli, I know there's quite a few people, yourself included, who reckon Arteta don't really rate Martinelli. But I think he does. I think he was just trying to protect him when he was leaving him out, and when he obviously came back and then he injured his knee. So I think Martinelli could be a new signing, but again, he's been out a long time, Sophie. I don't want to put too much pressure on the young man. We know what type of player he is, but I wouldn't want to put that pressure on him, because he's been out a hell of a long time. I think we've got to be smart with him.
Do you agree with Carty about selling Lacquer and reinvesting in a number 10? Do you think in January we're doing, by the way, you guys, next week, Casey and I, with a special guest, will be doing a top 5. Hopefully Amanda can make it too, but we're doing our top 5 transfers. So start doing your homework, realistic within our budget, in terms of thinking about players you can ship out and bring in and that have value to the squad. So that's going to be a show we're doing next week. But he didn't play Martinelli beforehand, and you keep saying that maybe he had an injury and stuff.
I think he was protecting himself. Yeah, I think he was protecting.
I totally understand that. I understand that. Okay, from Wilson O, come on, Super Kev, you're talking ifs. The players are weak mentally. It's like saying my 5-year-old child can't lift our couch, but if he can, your point is lost at my 5-year-old child.
What ifs have I said? I'm talking truth, Wilson. The truth. If you listen to what I'm talking about, there's no if, it's truth. The players are weak. That's the truth. We've needed a change of mentality for 10 years plus. That is the truth. The culture at Arsenal isn't right. That is the truth. That's not if. That's truth.
I would love, we're going to do a Tottenham matchday show. We're going to be on deck. Of course, it's the North London derby. We'll probably send some predictions out, and we'll do another show before that. But this is a massive game. This is he cannot lose this game, Casey. No matter what happens, he cannot lose this game at all.
I said it earlier. I was on Curtis Shaw TV, and I said, he asked me a question: what's it like to play in a North London derby? And it's a must-win game, Sophie. But you know what it definitely is now, especially now? It's a you better not lose game. Because that it will just set off the fan base into a different stratosphere. Because more questions, all it does is bring up more questions than answers. But
yeah,
if the players don't turn up for the North London derby, Sophie, what does that tell you?
It's a lot. I'm going to leave you with this one as well. This is from Mathieu on YouTube. I honestly don't mind sacking managers, especially as his league record is awful. Do we keep him for 2 years? Because it's a process. If I could see something promising, I would put up the bad result. I put up with the bad results. Some of his decisions are a joke. His press conference was like the old Wenger one when he was going downhill. KC, real quick before we go, your answer to Mathieu about that.
Well, look, Mathieu's got his opinion, right? And Mathieu, you weren't saying that last season. And I know, remember, we're only 10 games into this season. It's not as if we haven't won games, even with this team who ain't playing well. It will change. It will change. But I will repeat myself. The players are weak mentally. The players' culture of the dressing room is not right. And until Arteta speeds up that recruitment clock and gets the right characters in, we are going to see them improve. We're going to see them go down. We're going to see them improve. That's been their nature all across their career at Arsenal.
We got more people piling into chat right now. It's on fire, but we're going to have to let this one go. KC, your questions on your video, we've put them up on YouTube. Everyone can see it. This will be on replay as well. And thanks to everyone tuning in on replay as well. And of course, to our usual crew and everyone new who jumped into chat. Your questions that you were asking, can you repeat them for everybody? We can get them answered on Twitter and keep the debate going on YouTube and Twitter.
Look.
Okay.
Our people, this is the most important one for me. Is anybody surprised that these players are not up for certain games? Does that surprise anybody? Because we've seen it season after season after season. We've seen us go to teams and get blown away in the first half. Before the first half is finished, Arsenal fans are leaving, Sophie. And it's virtually the same players. So is anybody surprised of what's going on right now?
It's really...
That's the truth.
The truth is that we have to stop believing that we're the same Arsenal we used to be. And every team... and the great Manchester United, who have won a lot more Premier League titles and European titles than us, have not won the Premier League since Sir Alex Ferguson left 7 years ago. They've been through 3 or 4 managers now, and they still haven't found their formula. They still maybe haven't found their link to the old Manchester United they used to be. But I think football and sports in the modern world, Casey, you move forward, right? And you have to reinvent yourself. You have to find a new DNA, a new culture. You can't go back to dreaming about who you once were. You've got to reinvent yourself. A lot of us who have lost our jobs in COVID, we're never going to get some of those jobs back. Even our own governments have told us to reinvent ourselves and figure out a new way to survive and make a living. So I think Arsenal went through this incredible period. And like every great sports team in America, we call them franchises.
Yeah.
It's cyclical, right? The New England Patriots right now, it's over. They lost Tom Brady. That gravy train is gone. You know, we've seen the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't been able to win a Super Bowl since Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman retired. And Chelsea hadn't won it for 50 years until Jose came along. You know, even Tottenham haven't won it since the 60s. You've got Manchester City with no money. Liverpool, right.
30 years.
Right. So as much as I am always going to criticize Arteta where I feel it's right in certain games and specifics, Arsenal Football Club has a tremendous pedigree. We've lost our culture and our DNA as we once were known, Super Kev, but we have pedigree. And in that pedigree lives the legendary trophies, the results, the games, players like you. And until we get back to that and we have the right team to be able to rediscover that, it's going to be a long, painful journey. And I think that's what you've been trying to tell fans over the last few weeks with your truth.
Yeah. And you know what, Sophie? I'm a fan now. I'm a fan who's played in the dressing room and has been in the dressing room, played on the pitch. For all those successful franchises and teams that you've mentioned, there is one thing that ties them all together, Sophie. That's the culture, the mentality, the toughness. All of those teams had it because they have to have it. We haven't had it in well over a decade. So what does that tell us? It tells us until we address that, you can have as much talented players as you want. If they haven't got that and that, you can forget it.
And it's, you know, the truth of everything. The truth of everything, Casey, is that, you know, you can paint the house and make it look great on the exterior. But if you have mites or something's wrong with the foundation, eventually it's going to show, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we've done is we've slapped Band-Aids on things for a long time. We've painted the house, but we really haven't taken care of the foundation. So I appreciate you in the Truth Serum show today. A round of applause for Super Kev. Brilliant.
Thanks everybody for coming in the chat.
Oh,
Thank
everyone's
you.
loving it. And I think we'll continue to get comments once the show gets posted. And you won't be on tomorrow. You're traveling. You're doing some more work. So we have a special episode tomorrow, which I think everyone will enjoy. It's the end of our lockdown series, but we're looking at what we're going to be doing next as well, you guys. So stick with us. Tomorrow's show is a beautiful crescendo to everything that we've been doing in the lockdown series. You can check it out. It's already online, but it'll officially be launched. It's an interview with Rebecca Lowe, who is an epic human being, first and foremost, but also the voice and the face of Premier League here in the United States on NBC Sports. So look out for that and check that out too. In the meantime, please share this. Kevin Says the Truth about Arsenal with everyone you know. Get everyone stuck in. It's a brilliant conversation. And what I love about our listeners too is that we can go back and forth and debate and really just and really have great dialogue, Casey. And thank you so much again for joining. Everyone is just really enjoying having you and having access to you and being able to ask you all these questions.
No problem, Soph. And listen, it's the North London derby.
Oh, come on.
I've got my positive mindset on, because you know what? I know the players haven't been turning up, but this is the one where they've got to turn up, and I'm confident that they will turn up in this one. They've got to.
I have a bit of a feeling. And until then, tell them, Casey.
Listen, we love you. You make us crazy, but come on, you Gunners. Come on.
Get in.